You're listening to Prosperity Report, Love and Money Podcast. I'm your host, Kanae Corder, best-selling author, international speaker, and clinical hypnotherapist specializing in financial therapy. Each week, we'll bring you actionable ideas, tips, tools, and resources to help you get the mindset shift you need to feel more confident personally and financially, so you can reduce stress, work less, and make a huge impact on your world and your income. Now, let's get into today's show. Do you ever wonder if your brain is secretly plotting against you? The truth is, it is. Your brain is full of negative messages and programs. These negative messages block you from success and cause stress. And right now, whether you know it or not, your brain is standing in the way of your success, the success you were meant to have. Over my years of clinical practice, I've created a system that helps uncover the counterproductive brain habits imprinted by society. If your business has not reached the level of success you would like it to, it's time to take action. Join me and one powerful group of achievers in my coaching community. It's the tribe for people who want to get guidance and connection so they can be in business for themselves, but not by themselves. Go to kanaecorder.com/community. Get the guidance and connection you need to take your business to the next level. Go to kanaecorder.com/community. Hey, my Prosperos, we are back. Welcome back. I'm glad you guys came back for this episode because we're still talking about domestic abuse. And as you know, as I told you last week, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And for that reason, we want to go deeper on what domestic violence is, some of the misconceptions. We want to go deeper on how a person could get help, but also maybe you have a friend that you suspect is in an abusive relationship and you might want to help. So we want to answer your questions. So we got a few questions that are kind of frequently asked, but I want to say up front, if your question didn't get asked, then reach out to us, DM us, and Instagram, me or Bettina, and we'll give you that info in just a sec, and let us know that you want more information. So I'm joined with my good friend, Bettina Benson. So I want to welcome her back. Hey, Bettina, welcome back.
Hey, thank you for having me back.
You are welcome. Thank you for coming back because we still have so much to talk about.
I know there's still quite a bit of ground to cover, but I'm excited to answer some questions.
Yes. And last week, I forgot to ask you what your idea of prosperity. I was so excited about getting into this topic that I completely just passed over our signature question, which is, what is your idea of prosperity? Tell us.
I mean, prosperity to me is freedom, really. And, what freedom looks like to me is spending the time and doing the things and creating the memories with my family that I want to create, spending the time to financially support and give my time to causes that I deem and find important. The freedom to me is to be able to say what's right and do what's right without fear of consequence, and just to show people that if they want to make a change or go a different direction in their life or start a venture, show them that they can do it and even put some money behind them too. Because you know what? Sometimes, we're told, oh, you can do anything that you put your mind to. I mean, you can put your mind to it, but you also have to put some money to it too. Yeah. The actions are and so just to be able to show up in the way that I want to show up for people and causes.
Yeah, that's so good, because what I hear you saying and what I love about what you said so much is that freedom. And we talked a little bit about that last week. But freedom is so important, and you broke it down because freedom could possibly mean different things to different people. And so your definition, you're seeing freedom as being able to do what you consider the right thing, being able to have that money to take you towards those things that you really want, and being able to spend time with the people you love and creating those memories. That is some, really good freedom to have. And
Exactly.
and as we mentioned last week, not everybody has that freedom. Some people are stuck in relationships, in situations, household situations that they can't, or they feel like they can't get out of. So today we're going to go deeper on this idea of intimate partner abuse and financial abuse. I get questions about financial abuse. I don't get as many questions about domestic abuse, of course, or intimate partner abuse, because we only do this episode once a year. But I do still have some frequently asked questions. And Bettina, if you think of anything, or if you have any questions that you get asked often, chime in and let us know. But the one question that I think comes up a lot is, what are the signs? Like, if you know somebody who doesn't have that freedom, what are some of the signs? I know for me, signs that I have seen have been that isolation. Like, the partner is isolating them from their family, from their friends, from even doing things that they love. They isolate them. What are some of the signs that you've seen?
So some of the telltale signs are when you're constantly blamed for things. I like to call that gaslighting, which is a huge pet peeve for me. If it's for me or anybody else, if you want to see me go from 0 to 60, woo, like, but yeah, just like making you think everything's your fault, being critical, telling you what to wear, how you should look, not being able to control anger from a standpoint of like, you're physically throwing things or punching walls, making you feel less than, as opposed to, lifting you up, building you down, or not letting you have your moment and take up your space. If something great happens at work or in your business or in life, when that's minimized and those insecurities are projected onto you, that's, some signs of financial or domestic abuse.
Absolutely.
And then, like, I know you talked about financial abuse, and that is the topic of this podcast. So, we can go there too, but keeping cash and credit cards away from you, and, noticing if you're seeing somebody and they're talking about they've been put on an allowance, or they can't spend this or they can't spend that, or they have to ask for, little things like basic needs for food and clothes.
I have some stories that a woman couldn't even buy tampons without getting permission. Yeah.
That's a sign. So,
yeah, I would say a easy sign, like, to an amount of control that's just unimaginable. They just have to have a bunch of control. And the way we described it, the way you just described it, that could be a man or a woman. A woman could also fly off the handle and punch walls and take a man's shine and emasculate him, just the same way that a man could do all of those things to a woman. And the physical abuse comes in too. But I think, because I'm going to I have another question in a second about the socioeconomic status. But I think what happens is, once somebody gets to a certain social economic status, the physical abuse sometimes is not there as much as, or if it's there, it just comes in like a pulling, a pushing, in ways that don't leave bruises. Maybe you don't get punched in the face and there's a bruise, you have a black eye. Maybe that's not happening because it's a smarter abuser. And so they know how to do it so that they don't get found out.
Yeah, or create some level of disbelief in people. Like, there's no way that he could do that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing. And a couple of, many of the women that I've talked to, I don't think I hear this about the men as much, but many of the women, where the guy is like the most charming, like everybody thinks he's just Prince Charming. And then at home, he is whatever.
A monster.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So just if you're looking at it for yourself, because I wasn't going to say I almost got into one, but I dated a guy before who very early on I was like, oh, heck no, I cannot stay. This would be a domestic abuse relationship. And I remember one day I called after work and I was like, did you want me to come over? And he's like, yeah, come on. So I come over, but he's treating me mean the whole time. And I'm like,
Why'd
Like,
you want me to come?
exactly. So I
Like,
was
you need
like,
some alone time.
that's exactly what I'm thinking. And being
Yeah.
confident, and you guys if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you may have listened last year when I told my story, and I'll put the episode in the show notes. But coming from that, like having that in my background, my mom left a domestic abuse relationship. And so I saw it. I had early signs. I saw it. I saw the signs early. I was like, he's really treating me mean. So I said to him, I was like, do you want me to leave? And he was like, nobody asked you to bring your ass over here anyway. I mean, he like cursed me out. And I was like,
But
what?
you did ask me,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, let's just get that
Gaslighting.
clear.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, gaslighting. Like, so yeah.
Right.
So that like
Yeah. So
that's my cue.
yeah,
That's my cue to exit. Yeah.
exactly. So I did. I started grabbing my stuff. I'm getting my stuff up. And can you believe that he was like, did I tell you how good you look today?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was like, no, you didn't. But thank you. I'm still grabbing my stuff. And he's like, man, you just do so much. Like you're really doing some good things right now. And I'm like, yeah, thanks for noticing. Like after you just tear me down, now you want to notice how great I am as I'm on my way out the door. He's like,
Yeah.
you don't have to leave if you don't want to. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going.
Yeah. It's like he no longer has somebody to take his frustration out on because you're leaving.
Right.
So now he
Yeah.
wants to get you to stay
Yeah.
so he can continue. Yeah. And I mean, I always tell people too, you can never believe or what is it, judge a book by its cover. So somebody can be the
Mm-hmm.
nicest person. I mean, I've had people even hiring people, oh, I believe in God and I'm a good Christian. Like if you say that to me, that's almost a cue. Like we can just end it. I should be able to
Mm.
tell what kind of
Mm.
Christian you are or how nice you are through your actions. You don't have to tell me. So that will send a red flag up for
Yes.
me in a minute. But listen to your
Oh,
gut.
so true. That's such a
Um,
good point.
yeah, I've heard so many stories too where women have dated a guy or gotten with a guy, and the people around him, up to and including the family, will be like, "Are you sure?" Like and I'm like, "Yeah, that's a sign. Like they don't want to say anything, but they're saying something." Like,
Right. Yeah. They're
um,
like, girl, run.
yeah, basically. I mean, because once you're in, it's hard to get out.
Yes. That takes me to the next question. That's such a good point. So now you're in, you missed the signs, you didn't get out in time, and now you're all in love, and now the control is there completely. The fear, most importantly, is there. Okay, so this is a two-part question because you talked last week about the protective order. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times you feel like because it's verbal or mental or emotional abuse, you may not feel like you could get a protective order, but I think you still can. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Like, how do you know when it's time to go and say, I need some help? But also, I want to talk a little bit about how do you get yourself to the point, because it takes some time to go to AVLF. I mean, it takes some time to get there. So what is happening inside of you? So those two questions, let's try and answer those for some people out there, whether you're listening to this and you're experiencing this, or somebody that is, you can share this episode with them. But I would say for what I've seen, especially as a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that happens is there's this pre-contemplation stage, right? You start to see things, and inside of you, it's not right. But
Yep.
maybe you have the fear, and maybe you have children now at this point, and you don't know how to separate them from the other parent, the co-parent. But start just by noticing. That's first.
Mm-hmm.
Just by noticing. That's not right. That's not right. And like Bettina just said, trust your gut. You didn't trust your gut in the beginning, but at some point you got to start trusting your gut. So those two, you're in the pre-contemplation stage. You're probably not going to take any action. So be gentle with yourself because you're
Mm-hmm.
already being abused by somebody else. Don't abuse yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
just say, I know I'm not ready yet, but I'm going to leave. So don't beat yourself up. Once you get out of that pre-contemplation stage into that contemplation stage, then you can start planning. I had one, because of the work I do as a financial therapist, I had one woman, she planned her exit for 18 months.
I've heard of that before. Planning and planning and planning, and
Mm-hmm.
then planning like when and how you're actually going to exit, or how you're going to distract your partner. I've heard of that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because she had to take like little bits of money at a time, and she had children. So she couldn't take big amounts of money. She would just have to ask for more. If
Right.
something cost $100, she'd have to say it costs $200, and she would put the other $100 away. So she would have to be cunning and crafty like that for 18 months before she could get out. She applied for a credit card. She got it. And that credit card and that money that she had put away was what helped her get out. But
Hmm.
she never did any kind of order protection or protection order because there wasn't the physical abuse there. So do you know, or have you heard of, do they talk about this in the foundation about when can you go ahead and come and say, I need some help and I think I need to file some sort of complaint? Do you know?
They are there to consult and help navigate the
Ah,
justice system. And so, if you, again, going back to listening to your gut, when you walk into your home, you should be at ease.
mm,
You should be able to do whatever you want to do in your home.
yep.
And if you are not at ease because you're always on high alert because of your partner, that's a sign. Obviously, couples come up with how they want to conduct lives in their home and, what personal boundaries are in respecting space. And you want to be considerate of your partner. But if you're not at peace when you're at home, that's a sign. The lawyers at the AVLF are there to help help you understand and navigate your options. And if you don't know if it's an abuse, you can always go there and ask. If it's an abusive situation or qualifies for protective order, you can always go and ask. I am not an attorney, so I don't want to give out
Yeah.
that specific legal advice, but they are there to represent survivors. And when
Yes.
you decided that you've had enough of whatever it is, because if it's a situation that's putting you in a space of having to decide if you've had enough, it's not right.
Yeah. Yep.
So, again, they're helping you navigate those challenges, because I think when you talk about getting an attorney involved, people automatically jump to, oh, I don't have the money for that. I don't know how to navigate the legal system. That's why the AVLF and the Safe Families Office exists, is so you don't have to come up with those solutions and answers to your questions. They have helped people that don't have a lot of money up to people that are prominent people in society. So again, you might be worried about accessing and navigating the legal process, having sufficient knowledge about the justice system and the specific laws, and inadequate education to take advantage of the power of the courts. Again, financial constraints. And let's talk about, you're already in an abusive situation. So you have emotional and psychological barriers that are preventing you from functioning at 100% capacity. So
Mm,
then you're trying to put something else on your plate to outsmart your partner,
right.
or you have fear of retaliation if the abuser becomes aware that you're trying to come up with a plan or to take legal action. That's why the AVLF is there, to help you navigate that so you don't have to do that alone.
Nice.
And 80% of the Safe Families Office visitors leave the same day with a protective order. So 80%.
Wow.
And 100% of the visitors depart with more power, and power comes through the form of education and knowing your legal options. So you're going to get something. So you're going to have access to legal counsel, safety planning, and quality life affirming conflict management assistance. So that's going to offer you, the tools and resources and hope for rebuilding a healthy life for you and your family.
That is so good. And okay, first, I hear you're not alone. You don't have to figure this out by yourself. So, even listening to this podcast is a great beginning, but just know that there are other people out there willing to help. So, that's number one. You don't have to have the answers because there's somebody else that does. The other thing I hear that you're saying is they obviously know how to ask you the right questions to get to the point where they say, yes, you have a case. This requires a protective order. And I'm sure they get there by them knowing the right questions to ask you to see where your situation is. But also, one thing that it sounds like, if 80% of the people are leaving there helped and 100% of the people are leaving there with some sort of help, then what about the money? It sounds like that this foundation is taking care of that cost for the survivors. Is that right?
Yes, the legal services are pro bono.
Yeah. Wow. Because one of the things that a lot of people believe when it comes to domestic abuse, and especially when it comes to financial abuse, whenever you say financial awareness, financial abuse, financial, even therapy, people assume that it's about poor people. And it's not. Like, I have stressed out CEOs making millions of dollars in my office just as much as I have people who don't have even hundreds of dollars. So financial abuse, financial stress comes in all shapes and sizes, all dollar signs. You know, whether you have one comma or two or three commas, it's still stressful. Money is stressful. And so,
Yes.
so I like to talk a little bit about how this is not necessarily poor person's problem. This is not about, oh, they have low income and they're drug addicts and they're beating each other up. No, this is about a people problem. This is about stress beyond belief. This is about what we talked about before, passing down that generational curse, because it's been normalized that abuse is just part of life. That's what that gentleman that I talked about before, that's what he thought. So it's not just a poor person's problem. So let's talk about that. Some of the women that I have seen, I see this on both sides. I see financial abuse with women who are the primary breadwinner and they have emasculated the men and they are mentally and emotionally abusive. And I also see it on the male side, where the male has the more of the money and he won't let the woman do anything without his permission, sometimes not even learn to drive. That's how deep it gets. What have you seen or experienced?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, I mean, I've heard stories, again, prominent people that you would never think are going through situations. And from the outside looking in, it looks like they have this perfect life, but they have to do something to get that perfect life. They have to put up with things to get that perfect life. And it's passed down in a few cases that I've heard of from, that's just how the relationship between their mother and father were. Hey, you put up with this, you get a good life. And so, you know, I mean, just like alcoholism, unhealthy habits, unethical business practices are passed down from generation to generation because that's just the way things are done. The same goes with domestic violence and abuse as well.
That is a good point. Now, this question that I have right here is about, my conversation has probably sounded a lot heterosexual, but it happens in homosexual relationships as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I mean, again, anybody that's been in especially unhealthy households that have learned bad behaviors, no matter what sexual orientation that they are, they can take this into their relationships. It just does not discriminate.
Nope.
I think a lot of times we think and it might look different, and we might have a different perception because there's more money or means involved, but it's still happening.
Yeah. And I had a homosexual couple, and one of the partners would call me, the one that we would call I don't like the term victim, but the one who was being abused would call me and say, so say this because I can't say it, you know, and there was a lot of fear, but that was the partner who brought in the money. So earlier I talked about, you know, one partner bringing in the money, having the control because they bring in the money, whether it's the man or the woman. But this partner brought in the money, but was still very afraid. It was because they were being abused way before the money even got there. And so, you know, he would call me and say, well, when we get on the phone, make sure you tell him this or say this because I can't say it. And it was scary to watch. it's to see those signs and having to bring that up. Like, how are you going to live like this? It's not my place to decide whether they're in an abusive relationship or not, but it is my place. And I think it's all of our place to at least ask the person, what is happening with you right now? Like, let's look deeper so that, yes, you love this person. Yes, this person loves you, but that does not mean you're not being abused.
You know what? I think that's important. So there's a couple of things. For some people, it's not about the money. It's about validation. It's about having that partner, that family, creating this beautiful picture in their mind of what the perfect lifestyle and the perfect family looks like. And they'll put up with anything to do. They could be making $1 million, but because they crave validation or, their perfect picture, they'll put up with it. And I think it's very important to it's easy to say if you've never been in that situation, well, they should just leave. They shouldn't put up with that. That's not right. Okay, well, they're in the situation. It's not that simple. There are levels and layers to someone's mindset. And so it's got to be addressed on that level. And I think it's important to if you know anybody that you suspect that's in that situation, kind of like you said, what is going on here? You let that person know that you're offering them a safe space without judgment, that they can speak with you and share, and letting them know that, hey, I'm here for you if you want to talk this out. And I think that's important too.
Yeah. And I think this wasn't a question that we got, but I do want to mention that just because there is abuse doesn't mean there's not love. It's just that this person doesn't love in a loving way. This actually is what they believe love is.
So many people don't know what love is.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Yeah, so we get it wrong. Even if you do consider yourself to be more enlightened and evolved, we get it wrong all the time. And there's a lot of undoing that needs to be done, undoing of thought systems and beliefs and mindset. And they don't know how to love and get their needs met. They think that in order to get their needs met, they have to wield a certain power and control.
Yep, exactly.
And in some cases, there's a lot of insecurity involved.
Yep.
That they can't just be who they are. Yeah, in many cases,
Yeah.
Insecurity involved, that they just can't be themselves. They don't believe that they can be themselves and get love because they don't feel like they're worthy of it.
Yep, that is so true. And as a therapist, I don't have the luxury, like I don't get to judge anyway. Like I have to be partial no matter who comes. And let's just take that couple that came to me. Neither one of those people are right or wrong. We just have to look at what is happening and deal with what is happening. So it's not for me to say, you're wrong, you're right, especially as a therapist. But I'm sharing that because I've learned that skill because it was taught to me. It's sort of who I am. I'm just a fair person naturally, but it also is training. And through my training, I look at what's happening as this is a hurt person that is hurting another person. But I still see that person's hurt. Because just because this person is hurting another person doesn't mean they weren't hurt. Because almost in every case, a really high percentage of abusers were abused.
Yeah, I mean, they're hurt. Their saying goes, hurt people hurt people. You need to figure out a better way to be able to get your needs met. But there's a lot of undoing that has to be done. And I think when it goes back to right or wrong, you can do that over here by yourself, but it is wrong for you to bring that into a relationship. And until you can get healthy, if you can get healthy, you need to deal with that on your own. The person who's a survivor in the situation doesn't have to subject themselves to that. Healing is a self project.
Yep. Inside job. Yep.
It's an inside job.
You got to do it. And you can't expect the other person, one, to take your abuse. They could go on that journey with you if they so choose on your journey to healing, but it's not their responsibility. It is your responsibility. So we talked a lot to the survivors, to the person being abused, but I also want to make sure that if you're listening to this and you suspect that you are an abuser, then you got to get your help. You got to do your work rather than hurt more people. Heal the hurt that you've experienced.
And and you can love someone from a distance. And sometimes loving from a distance means completely removing yourself from that person's life. and sending a prayer or a good thought up for them.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. And sometimes that distance is what is needed to really see yourself. You need that distance to say, oh, okay, I see what I'm doing to affect other people.
Yes, exactly.
So, man, we did have a deep conversation. Man, we went deep.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, there were a couple of times that I was like really moved. I mean, this is so rich. It's so much. And I hate that we're only talking about it in October. So, guys, let's continue this conversation. Let's not stop just because this is the end of October. And so this month is ending, but that doesn't mean that intimate partner abuse awareness has to end. That doesn't mean that financial abuse awareness has to end. Let's keep this conversation going. Bettina and I are dedicated to that. We ask you to join us in doing that. You can support, like Bettina mentioned before, she has the purple pajamas for sale. At this point, they're probably sold out, but no
you can
worries.
pre-order.
You can pre-order, exactly. So they're highly sought after. One, because they're beautiful, but two, because it's such a good cause. That's one way. You may even find that you want to get involved with AVLF. And if you're not in Atlanta, which most of the listeners won't be, I get it. There may be a foundation similar to Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation in your area. So get involved. I also, aside from working with AVLF, I work with Allstate's Purple Purse Foundation. So that might be another way you can get involved. There are ways that you can get involved, but DM me. I'm on Instagram. You guys know it's Kanae Quarter on Instagram. Bettina on Instagram, you are at Chloe
Kristen. Yeah,
Chloe
and that's
Kristen.
CHLOEKRISTYN.
Okay, great. And the website is the same, Chloe Kristen, CHLOEKRISTYN. So
.com.
.com. Yes, thank you. So that's important that you go to the website, you go to Instagram, look us up, follow us, and then DM us and say, yay, hey, I got more questions, or hey, how do I get involved? Or hey, I think I might be in an abusive relationship. What to do? We will assist you. Or I think I might be the abuser because I probably have been abused. I need some help, and we'll assist you too.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep. And we look forward to your support. And
Yes.
if you can get involved in any way, this cause needs more educated supporters behind it. And we look forward to seeing you on social or the website.
Yes. And if nothing else, share this episode with someone you love. They don't have to be experienced in domestic abuse. I just say share this episode so we can get the word out. And I'll see you guys next week. Bettina, I'll see you at the event, which I think is tonight. We're recording this ahead of time, but I think this is airing the night of the event.
The purple pajama party.
Yes, the purple pajama party. So I'm pretty excited. Oh my gosh, yes. I will see you tonight at the purple pajama party.
With your PJs on.
Yes, that's right. Lounging and relaxing, sending out positive vibes, peace vibes, freedom vibes to anyone who needs them. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week. Thank you, Bettina.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, guys. Thanks for listening. If you want more love and money conversations, subscribe to this podcast. Also, tell your friends about us. I'll see you next episode. But in the meantime, head on over to KanaeQuarter.com for more tips, tools, and resources. And go ahead and leave us a comment if you like. We'd love to hear from you. This show is not to replace professional counsel. The best advice comes from a professional you know. The topics discussed in this podcast are general in nature and are for entertainment and informational purposes only. We encourage you to meet with a professional to discuss your specific situation, whether financial or therapeutic. That's all for now. I'll see you sooner. Remember, no matter what anybody ever tells you, you can have wealth in all of its forms. Believe it, and you will soon see it.